I stream now on Twitch, so go check it out. Or don't. It's the first link in the description, so you won't click away. Replicant guy! Alright, this map is fucking amazing, okay? Starting on stage 1. And if you cannot do this, then I'm sorry, Holmes, but yeah, how do I say this? You might need to find another map. The first couple of ramps are really free, but when you get to the first ramp where you can moon, literally moon as much as you like because you don't need any units after this. Try to turn very slow when you get out of the spin to get the best board, and jump off the ramp very low, so don't flick too high because you want to stay low for the next section. When you do the 180 onto the last couple of ramps, do that quite late and don't try to turn as fast as possible. Last couple of ramps are also pretty straightforward, just try not to hit the ledge that's sticking out after the first ramp. Also board the last ramp very smoothly and do not stay on it for too long, otherwise you will hit your head on the end platform. Okay, this is stage 1 done, and this is probably easier than you expected, but now we start actually getting into the map, because stage 1 was literally just the entree. When you get into the second ramp, try to moon before the 180, I think that's a lot easier than just, trying to take it close. Stay on the third ramp really high so that you keep as many units as possible, and then touch the fourth ramp really closely so that you can boost yourself into the tube. Once you're in the tube, your units don't matter, you can literally make it with any units in here, so don't worry if you lost all your speed bumping the fourth ramp. Now we get to the hardest part of stage 2, and you need to do this properly because if you don't get units out of this section, then you can basically restart. So the way I do this spin is that I take the hole right behind me once I enter the spin, so I do 180. And after that you just want to take the 2 closest holes to you. Basically the spin here is entirely just a plus left section. When you get to the tiny ramp, don't literally just slide down it, but surf the ramp. The idea is that you want to position yourself in the way so that you can take the bottom ramp as much as possible, since that's gonna help with the units later on. Once you get to the bottom ramp, you need to go up the tiny ramp you just came from, and this is pretty difficult to figure out. Best way I can describe it is don't take the bottom ramp all the way up. So once you're like halfway up the ramp, jump off and 180 onto the tiny ramp again. But this is just something you gotta practice and lock and try to get a feeling for it yourself. Once you're on the tiny ramp, don't stay on it for long, just literally bump into it once and then go on to the next section. After you bumped into the tiny ramp, aim for 1500 units and that should get you through the rest of the stage easily. But I also play on 64 ticks, so 1460 for example might be enough if you play on 66 tick. If you don't have enough units to make it to the next ramp, you can also 180 onto the other ramp, which is also possible. When you get to the next ramp after the big spin section, don't flick off too high because there's gonna be a head check at the end of this weavy section. Although technically you could moon, but then you can't just turn left straight away after the last weave. After going through the tiny hallway, we get to the most AIDS part of this entire map. This is literally the worst part, so if you think this is so annoying, then don't worry, the next stages are gonna be fire, but this is just shit. Boarding the ramp after the tiny hallway is a pain in the ass, but the only thing that makes it a bit better is when you got enough units you can kind of bump into the ramp instead of boarding it. Go as low as possible and don't leave the ramp early. After going on the last actual ramp, try to go as low as possible again and then the biggest flick of your entire life. After you've flicked, don't go into the spin as early as possible because there's actually a feed check, so try to delay it a bit. Last part, if you have enough units, is very simple again, just bump into the ramp or surf it all the way up, then 180 into the end. Alright, stage 3. Now this stage is a banger. This is probably my favorite stage in all of Surf. This is so good. When you're on the second ramp, the ramp at the end is curved, so it kind of does the flick for you, so don't really flick too high, just go kind of straight. When you're on the next ramp, you can moon it once you exit it, because the next part doesn't have any unit requirements. This next spin part is very straightforward, it's literally just plus left. When you go to the bottom of this ramp, try to go as low as possible because staying high does not really work. When you enter the slide section, don't stay on one side the entire time. Although this is still possible, it's gonna be a lot harder because you lose more units that way. What you should instead do is enter the slide section on the left and then go to the right once you go up. The entire next part is really straightforward until we get to the head hit. But when you get to the head surf, make sure that you're gonna literally bump into it and lose basically all your units. This is gonna make the next part easier in my opinion. With no forward momentum left, boarding the next ramp and going through the tiny hole is so goddamn easy. The next section is 2 180s, and you can even hit walls here. You don't really need too many units, so don't worry about that. Go low on the ramp, do one big flick again, and for the same reason as before, you want to bump into the heads up to lose your units, because then the setup for the next board is gonna be easier. Last two ramps can be kind of tricky, but with enough practice there should be no problem at all, and a bit of luck maybe. You just need to get a feeling how to leave that one ramp so that you can get onto the circular ramp. But once you manage that, go onto the circular ramp and just moon it again, and then there's your end. Sometimes after you leave the circular ramp, you kind of hit a wall and then you manage to like stand on this platform right before the end. You can actually literally hop into the end here. Shoutouts to Kiro for being the best comedic surf teacher in the Northern Hemisphere. Alright, this last stage is way too fucking long for me to go through all the way, so I'll just mention the most important parts in a summary speedrun. Take this ramp from the beginning. Start going up on the third ramp here. When you exit this, look slightly down. If you want to just plus left, take this window. Don't flick off too high here. Moon this here. You can hit walls before you board the ramp to make it easier. Once you go into this hallway, deploy air wiggling tactics if needed. You can't hit the ceiling. Moon this, and you can be up the spin. Moon again. Take the boost 3 times and then moon. Air strafe the fuck out of this part. Now go subscribe to my Twitch and fuck off, fuck off, fuck off, fuck off.